Hello, welcome pen friends. This is kind of a special video. This is my announcement that I am going to be doing a depth year. And you may wonder what that is. I didn't know what it was till just a few days ago. And the reason I even know what a depth, and I'm going to spell it because I'm not really good at pronouncing the word, depth, D-E-P-T-H, as in deep, a deep year, not leap, no. Okay, so I didn't know what it was until pen viewer and pen friend Kimbo Polo mentioned it in a comment after my last video that was on the subject of how to enjoy the fountain pen hobby without spending money. She said, why not do a depth year? Well, I'd never heard of it. So I did a little search and I found a blog post about it. I found a couple of different people who had done videos about their experiences with it, and I didn't find anybody coming from fountain pens, but there may be out there somewhere. But it was very, very interesting. When I found the original blog post on Raptitude by David McCain is his name, when I found that, I totally resonated with it so much. I thought, this is what I've been trying to put into words. So I'm going to talk about it so that you'll know what I'm talking about. And then I'll want to know whether this is going to be of interest to my viewers. If it is, if it's of great interest, then I'll mention it quite often going forward in 2020. And if it's only, moderate, then I'll mention it just a little bit, maybe like a monthly update. And if it's of no interest, I'll be doing it in the background and it'll still probably pop out because that's how I am. I talk about my cats and everything I'm doing. But I thought this would be nice to tell you what I've learned in the last couple of days about this. And so let's just dive right in. So I wrote down some questions. That way I would answer the questions, the best of my ability. So I wrote down, what is a depth year? Well, from what I've been reading and from the original person who did, hello Coco, did the blog post, it's the guiding philosophy is going deeper with what you have instead of wider. And we all know what wider looks like. It looks like getting more pens and more inks and more ink samples and lots of notebooks. We have that in the fountain pen community, some of us, not all of us, but some of us. So, and he mentions, okay, so when he first wrote about this, he was just proposing a hypothetical tradition. And so I've got his article and I'll quote it some because he can say it better than I can. And I'm going to link you directly to this original blog post, which was December of 2017. It was just about 2 years ago, almost exactly to the date. Hello, Coco. You can come up here, but you're going to have to work it out. He's not quite jumping quite the way he was before because he's just had his surgery. So, okay. So he says, no new hobbies, equipment, games, or books are allowed during this year. Instead, you have to find value in what you already own or what you've already started. Let me bring him up because I know, honey. I know. Jumping isn't quite as easy. He's doing really well, though. So maybe he'd just like to sit in my lap or something. I'm not sure. Okay. So I already mentioned the guiding philosophy, going deeper, not wider. He says, drill down for value and enrichment instead of fanning out. You turn to the wealth of options already in your house, literally and figuratively. We could call it a depth year or a year of deepening. This original blog post is amazing. It's like... he's already where I'd like to be. And what he's talking about just resonated with me so amazingly. And he says, by taking a whole year to go deeper instead of wider, you end up with a rich but carefully curated collection of personal interests rather than the horde of mostly dormant infatuations that happens so easily in post-industrial society. Yeah, I know that back in 2015 I was going to paint and I did some painting, but I found out I kind of liked watercolor, but I wasn't so into the acrylic painting, and I have a lot of paints that I need to pass on actually and things like that. But for this depth year, I'm going to be concentrating on inks, pens, notebooks, everything really heavily associated with the hobby. And I'm sure there'll be other things too, because I've been for a long time working on this with books, for instance. You okay, Coco? You'll be all right up there as long as you don't get into the ink again. He sometimes gets a little carried away with the ink, but I think he'll be all right. Okay, so talk about scattered. Okay, he says a big part of the depth years maturing process would be learning to live without regular doses of the little high we get when we start something new. If we indulge too often, we can develop a sort of sweet tooth for the feeling of newness itself. And I dug out a couple things because I was thinking about, I had learned this in Tupperware. There was nothing really new. There was just new colors. I mean, you know, and I actually attempted to sell Tupperware once, but we won't talk about that. My mom was wildly successful with it back in the 70s, and I worked at it. I tried, and it wasn't for me. But I soon realized that as even a Tupperware dealer, I was going to have to buy new things that I already had because they had a different color. But we kind of do that with pens too. And I'm not picking on Lamy because TWSBI's doing this too, and other companies, they come out with new finishes, new colors, you know, and there we go. Or maybe we don't. Maybe we take a year off from that because, like in my case, there are things like that I want to learn. Like I want to learn how to get this apart and confidently put it back together. This is my TWSBI Mini. It needs to be greased. And I've just made myself so busy with the things that are coming in that I haven't done that. And so it's cleaned out. I'm not going to abuse it. It doesn't turn too well. Yeah, and so it needs to be greased. It's a simple matter, except that I'm afraid I won't be able to get it back together, but I will. It needs focus. It needs attention. I don't need a new pen. I need to fix the pen I have. And so that's just one example. But anyway, what kind of started this, was learning about what a depth year is. Hello there, Coco. Oh my goodness. Yes. Uh-oh. Now that would be dangerous. Yeah. That desk, the desk where the computer is, that could get a little boy in trouble. Yeah. You better go see Daddy for a while. So I started reading about this, and at the same time, I was about to approach this whole thing of what I considered to be my dilemma of having a lot of everything. The price of prosperity is what my mom would call it. I was going to approach it through either a no buy or a low buy. And we're all kind of familiar with that. A lot of people in the stationery community, the makeup community, the everything, everywhere have tried that, and I think with good results. But I don't realistically see myself not purchasing anything. However, I'm getting clearer. The lenses are clearing up about, you know, I put ads on this channel so that I could buy things like the chromatography strips and the paper that I might need that I don't have for testing of inks, which is my first really priority for the channel normally, you know. So I started to think about it, and I thought, well, I can't say that I'm doing a no-buy because I'm not. I know there'll be some things I'll need to purchase. And you know, I've done pen allowance. I understand the importance of putting some limits, but I got a little bit surprised when I added up, and believe me, I mean, are you sitting down? You might want to sit down and go ahead and swallow anything you have in your mouth if you're drinking water or something. I added up all my expenses for 2019, and I did the best I could. There probably were a few missing that were like when I went to CVS to buy you know, the little CVS caliber notebooks. That's a cash buy that, you know, I'll have a couple dollars in my wallet and I'll stop in and get those. So those weren't included, and it was hard to estimate. So it's not exact, and I didn't want to spend days and days on it. I spent a couple hours on it. So I added up everything, and luckily pretty much everything was in my checkbook. So, you know, because I have the pen account. And then I had a few things where like a couple of pens where I bought them because they were limited edition. Don't get me started on that. And then paid the credit card in full when it came in. But $900, you know, that's a lot of money. And I wouldn't have said that I had that much money. So, you know, I'm being really open here, but that adds up to $75 a month if you average that out. Now, the good news, I think it's good news, is that the channel actually made $569.62 this year. That is amazing, because last year, 2018, there was no revenue from ads. You know, I didn't have that. And so it truly makes such a difference, and it's really cool. But out of that money, $150.69 has not yet been credited to my account. So I will go into my depth year with $150.69 plus whatever was in there, which might be around 15. So the channel's not in jeopardy. I don't need to worry about that. If I need these chromatography strips and things like that, or specific white rhodia paper. I mean, people have sent me lots of paper and things too. And that is another reason why I want to do this depth year, is to honor all the gifts, because I haven't, a lot of people who watch this channel, viewers and pen pals both, and people I don't even really know, have sent me pens and ink samples and inks, and I haven't actually been able to appreciate fully and use fully all of the gifts. So that's going to be part of it. And I'll talk about that in my next steps, which is coming up here. I'm not following my notes at all. But in what's next, I'm going to talk more about how I'm in the process of writing policies for myself, personal policies about the different categories, and also policies for the channel, at least for next year, for 2020, so that I can fully bring to you the reviews I've been wanting to do on things that are already here. And I'm talking about ink samples, pens, even notebooks that are just amazing, that it's like I'm clamoring to get to them, and I haven't wanted to give up on the channel at all and just say, well, I'll just do whatever I want, because it's fun. It's fun for me, and it seems to be fun for other people too. And there's times like September was such a fun time, but I did like a ink review a day in September. I couldn't sustain that, but okay, so I'm feeling like I really am scattered. But I'll link you directly to this original blog post, and there's a video or two that I'll also link. But so that was one question, what's a depth year? And then I wandered on. Oh, next question. Is it the same as a no spend or low spend? No, we mustn't confuse it, because this isn't all about money. It's about values and appreciation and how we relate to just about everything. And he talks in his post too about even about friends and valuing and enjoying and appreciating people. It's not just about things, but certainly I think if like how I improved how I relate to food and how I do the intermittent fasting and the low carb, and I think that's why I'm wanting to do this in other areas of my life too, is because if we improve in one area, then we naturally will relate better in all different areas. So whether it's people, money, or things. And I think it's Susie Orman that says, people first, then money, then things. And I love that. That gives me peace. She's one that I used to study. And when I got this blog post and started really reading it, and it's very simple. It's one page and then almost a little more than a half. It's a page and a half. It's not a very long commitment to read this and to kind of start thinking about this. It just gave me such peace. It was like, there. That's what I'm looking for. And it's not a punishment. It's not a deprivation thing. It's going to enhance everything, is the way I see it. So it's not the same thing as a no spend or a low spend, but there are going to be elements of that woven in throughout the year. I am absolutely sure, because I really have really strong desire not to buy another pen, for instance, until I have fully appreciated and used and tried out the pens that I have. And I have not done that, with every pen that's come through the door. Most of them have been inked up at least once, but there's at least a few that haven't been, that maybe I thought were going to be a challenge, or maybe I just was like, just overwhelmed. I think overwhelmed is a good word. Okay, where did I hear about it? Well, I already mentioned that a viewer, Kimbo Polo, mentioned this. I had never heard the words depth year before. I didn't know what it meant. I'd heard the words no spend and low spend a lot. And I actually have people that I follow that do that, and I've gleaned a lot from their experiences. And then, of course, this Raptitude blog post by David McCain, I think, is where origin of this idea sort of emerged, you know. That's what I could find out anyway. Why do I want to do this? Oh, okay. I probably have touched on that a little bit. I want to do this because I'm going to be real frank. Even my values are like clashing up against this excess. Like, it's okay, I think, to have a lot of things if I'm using them. But if I'm not, then I really need to take the time to sort and, you know, try them out first and know what I'm doing, because I wouldn't even want to give a pen away unless I knew what to tell a person. Like, okay, maybe this pen is best with flowy inks, or maybe it needs a different nib, or maybe I smoothed the nib, but I'm not sure whether they'll get along with it. You know, there's a lot to it. I don't just want to unload everything that I'm not going to write with, or, you know, and that might be a bad example. It's just as important to me with the ink situation that I get a chance to explore each of the samples, and that I fully use up the colors that I have. Like I was thinking about it, and I thought, well, what would allow me then to buy ink? Well, if I run out of a color, if I run out of gray ink, well, even just this week, I got a beautiful little sample. It didn't come in this bottle. It came in three little 5 mil, but this is Faber-Castell Stone Gray. And so I'm not going to run out of gray ink for a while, because I've got half a bottle of Earl Grey. And should I use all that ink, which I don't even know how long that will take me, then yes, I could buy some gray ink, but I also have samples. So I am not worried about running out. And anybody who's seen that ink shelf knows this. But I want to do this so that I can feel better about what I do have and honor the gifts that have been given to me, because so much, if I separated everything out that I didn't purchase, that was just sent to me out of generous viewers and pen friends and pen pals and so on, then to me it feels like I'd have like half what I have, and so that's wonderful. But I want to, well, I'll be setting those policies, so let's skip that for now, because I don't think I'll be hurting anyone's feelings by saying the people have been so generous that I actually have to, you know, change that, so that please, you know, you give it to someone who really needs it, or something like that. How does this relate to the fountain pen hobby? Well, I mean, it relates to my pens, my inks, notebooks, everything, because in every category there is abundance, and these things need to be used up, I think. Or, you know, financially, I did not plan to spend $75 a month average. It all added up, you know, and I did not plan that. I would have told you I was aiming for the $25 ink flight, and then like somewhere around a total of 50. But wow, it didn't shock me. I thought it was going to be worse, and you know, but I did. I went over it more than once with my calculator, and it made me feel a little better when I minus the ad money, because it sort of, you know, it sort of reduced that by quite a bit in terms of, you know, incoming and outgoing. But wow, I think it totally relates to the fountain pen hobby, because I don't want to spoil this hobby. I don't want to ruin this. I don't want to become frustrated and sell off everything. Well, that's not going to happen. I love to write. I've always loved to write. And now that I've found the beautiful inks and the smooth experience of writing with fountain pens, that's not going to happen. But things like the running the YouTube channel could be at jeopardy if I just keep allowing myself to be overwhelmed. So yeah, I just know in my heart, without even having to come up with a reason, that this kind of thing is what I need to do. So, okay, we've gotten all the way to the part where I jotted down next steps. What's next? Okay, one of the things I've already done, this is my old traveler's notebook that I've used for, let's see, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 months with my intermittent fasting, and I lost 60 pounds, and I cleaned up my eating and lowered my blood sugar and all of that. I've talked about that at length. This system, this kind of a size, has really worked for me. So I set up one in a pocket-sized traveler's notebook that was gifted to me by a generous viewer, and her initials are TD, so you know who you are. This is a gray Chic Sparrow Deluxe little pocket-sized notebook. It needs to be broken in. It's quite stiff and brand new. And I put in it a little insert for pen purchases, because anything, absolutely anything that's bought are going to be detailed this year. Because when I did my inventory, all I really had was the line in my checkbook, and then in some cases I could find the invoice, but I wasn't very good about that. So then in here is wish list. I did another little booklet for wish list. That way I just want it all in one place in this, the same kind of philosophy as I did the intermittent fasting. And then in the back, I've got a little pretty one, a log and jotter, where I'm going to put gifts and free things 2020. So anything that I win in a drawing or anything that's gifted to me, or I want to keep track of that very detailed. I think that's really important. And then this is just an Amazon card, but this is going to be my pen account. I'm going to put my pen account debit card right in there. And that's where it'll stay. And then I've got a Preppy here in the pen loop. And a couple of business cards and things like from Goulet and different places. But, you know, it's a simple setup, and I may not be using it as much as I think, because certainly what this is going to entail is going deeper with what I have. But I know better than to say that there won't be things that I need to purchase or want to purchase for the channel especially. And then this will be my notebook where I write about the experience of doing a depth year. And this is the author by GLP Creations. So it's a Tomoya River, and I featured this because this was something I won in a drawing. And this will be perfect for any fountain pens that I have inked up. And I'm going to do just like I did with that cafe notebook where I wrote about intermittent fasting. And I'll be checking in and writing about my thoughts and feelings about the depth year. And I'm sure that I'm probably at times going to get a little confused, a little twisted in with the no buy, low buy. But I don't necessarily resonate with those things completely. Probably because of having the channel and knowing that I feel like you guys, you know, click on skip ads, or you put up with the ads. And so the things that I get for the channel I need to pay attention to that. I need to be a good steward of that, the income that comes in on that. And it's not all that much, but it adds up when you add up the whole amount. So it's just wonderful. So I'm ready as far as journals, and I feel like I needed to be because there's only 2 weeks left in December 2019. So to hit the pavement running, you know, I've got to be ready. I'm going to do more organizing on my pens and inks. I need to separate pens that I have never inked up, or that I inked up once and it had a colossal problem with, because excuse me, one inking is not enough. I need to go back over and see, is this a pen that I don't want to mess with, or is this one that that I just hadn't found the right ink for? Things like that. And then I wrote down last, choose a notebook for specific journaling, and I did that. So these are the two, and I do compartmentalize. I mean, I do the wonderful bullet journal that's in here, in a Leuchtturm, and in the Lockbee field notes cover. And that's a daily thing, but it's like a planner, and I don't get too carried away in that. Those last me a whole year. So, although there have been times when I've thought, well, maybe I should roll everything into one book, I just don't seem to be a one book person. So that's still going to be my bullet journal, and then I've compartmentalized in these other two. So then, last but not least, I put down create policies for, you know, personal policies and channel policies. You know, if that needs to be, but I have to journal about that. And where I do that is in the process notebook, the one where I can be really messy. And oh, I was messy. All my expenses, or, you know, all what I spent. Oh, and that's at the bottom in red, I wrote not including stamps and postage. Now, it's not that I don't count stamps and postage, but I didn't add it all up into here because, you know, I'd be buying stamps anyway. I have pen pals, and I don't abuse stamps. Let's put it that way. I really don't feel like I overdo it, but I feel like I overdo it with pens, inks, and notebooks. That's just being honest. So I'll work in here, And I did a bunch of notes, but that was before I realized, yeah, I started to create guidelines, policies, but I wasn't happy with them, so I folded it, and I'm going to work some more, and I'll be working in this notebook on that. But it's fun. Don't get me wrong. I'm not making this into a chore. This is what I love. You know, really looking at things, especially before a new year, when I know that things can be better and things can be more, like I was thinking about all the different ways that I could utilize money that I spent on, you know, pens and inks, and I'm not going to be wasting any time on regret. I'm only going to learn from it, you know, because I'm always looking for money for trips to Vermont. Oh, I got to reach my water, excuse me. Sorry about that, but I have windows open and it's weird weather today. I'm fixing to lose my voice, mercy. So I was thinking about how I still have some payments on my car. I'd like to go to Vermont, probably not this coming year, but who knows. I have a new kitty. There's plenty of places where I need to save money and be ready for lots of different things. And so even though, I mean, it's wonderful to be able to purchase things for the pen hobby, I was no longer comfortable with it. Sometime in October, I started to get real rumblings of the need to change so that I can feel better about things. So I'm pretty sure I definitely have covered what I wanted to, which was just to announce that I'm going to do a depth year, to tell you a little bit about it, but I'll lead you through the links to where you can find out about it. And let's see if there are any more quotes from him. Okay, here's one that I really liked. He says, the joy and enrichment you could derive from a single musical instrument, let's replace that with fountain pen, or set of paints, and let's say set of inks. So, the joy and enrichment you could derive from a single fountain pen or a single set of inks, ink samples, is enough to fill a lifetime, and many people have demonstrated that. But those deeper levels are effectively inaccessible without some limit to the splitting of your attention and interest. I do that. I do that with books, and I still didn't learn completely from how I do that with books. Oh, he goes to books next. He says, many bookshelves make our modern day width to depth problems obvious. You might acquire several books for every one you actually read. There's something fishy about that. You buy the book, let's say pen, you buy the pen under the pretense that what you want to do is write with it. I'm changing his words, so that's not really fair. Just keep in mind that I'm doing that so that it'll help us translate, you know, to our own little obsession here. Pens you bought months ago under the same pretense and from which you derived the same cheap thrill of acquiring it. Okay, I'm going to stop because I don't want to mangle this person. He has a wonderful blog. It's called Raptitude. And I really thank you, Kimbo Polo, for mentioning depth year, something I knew nothing about prior to posting my video on my number 4, part 4 of how to enjoy the fountain pen hobby without spending money. So I think I'm going to stop rambling now because this is it for this one. This gives you an introduction to what I'm going to do. Some of you may want to try it too, but I'm going to be looking for the comments to know whether or not like an ongoing check-ins from me would be of interest to you as I apply this to fountain pens, inks, and notebooks and everything fountain pen related. And because it's so much fun, I won't mind at all sharing if that's of interest to you. But even if this video only helps one other person cue in to something that might help them going forward in the hobby, then it'll be worth it. It'll be worth it. I don't know why I put a long sleeve shirt on because I'm sweating. I have the window behind me open and apparently I can hear the neighbor's air conditioner. So I think I'm out of sync with the weather is what I think. So I'll see you next time. And thank you so much for being here. Let me know in the comments. I'm going to be depending on that. And I know you won't let me down. Comments from the last one took me like 3 days to get through, and I love it. I love it because it shows me, what direction we're all going in and what's of interest. So thank you very much and see you next time. Bye for now.